As many of you just saw, this will probably be one of my most hater videos I have ever made, if not the most hater video ever made. But damn it, I've made a few mock drafts, and I've had to hear his name about 1,000 times. So this video is going to be about why I personally think Nikola Topic will be a bust. Okay, no, not that type of bust, but I don't think he's going to meet expectations that are currently set upon him to go into the NBA draft. And if you don't know who Nikola Topic is, if you don't know the entire lore behind him and why I'm probably making this video, I'm going to be getting all that in this video. So if that does not interest you, please watch it all the way through and hit the like button if you like it. And without further ado, without rambling on too much, let's get right into this video. Alright, now first of all, why am I making this video? Do I think Topic touches children? Do I think he's a terrible guy? No, he's probably a stand-up guy. I'm just saying, as a basketball player, I think he is severely overhyped, and the reason I'm making this video is because in every mock draft I make, he's obviously not in the lottery because I don't think he's a lottery talent, and there's about 3 or 4 guys in every single one of those videos who has a boner for him and just white knights and defends him to the death, okay? And I just personally don't see it. If I'm wrong, I'll keep the video up and y'all can make fun of me for looking stupid, but as of right now, I think I'm correct on this, and I just think for sure that Topic is going not to be nearly as good as a lot of people are saying he is going to be. And now for the minority of you that are probably still confused of who the hell Nikola Topic honestly even is, if you don't follow the draft, who he is, he's a 6'5", 18-year-old point guard out of Europe. He plays over there in the European leagues. He played in both the ABA and the Euro League. And if you don't know what the ABA is, honestly, you don't really need to worry about it. They're basically just a league where you have a chance to make it into the Euro League, and then the Euro League is like the second best league in the world, but he only played 2 games over there, really 1.5 because he got injured in the second one. And we're going to be getting to all those games and how he did in both leagues and how he did in Europe and why everybody is so hyped about him and all of that. We're going to be getting into it, but overall, that's basically the gist of all you need to know of him. He's a 6'5" point guard. He can pass the ball pretty okay. He's a projected top 5 pick in this year's draft, and he played over in Europe professionally, and that is what he's currently doing right now, and he is injured, and yeah, that's basically, you're all caught up on all the Nikola Topic lore you're going to need for the rest of this video. And before I get into why I think he sucks, I'm going to be getting into why everyone thinks he is going to be so good. A lot of people like that he is 6'5", obviously as a point guard. That is pretty tall for a point guard, and even in the NBA. Now yes, they're starting to get more and more of them in the NBA, and they're starting to become taller and taller every year, but 6'5" is still pretty tall for a NBA point guard. And really, everybody's so hyped about him because they think he's going to be a great passer, they think his ball handling is pretty good, and they just think overall he's an elite level passer, and the only question is really his jump shooting. The problem with that is his jump shooting is so unbelievably horrendous, it's not even funny. And that's only one of the reasons it sucks. Now, if you keep up with the NBA, you would know that any type of guard, even small forwards at this point, shooting is one of the most valuable talents you could have as a guard. And unfortunately for Topic, he has 0 talent in that regard. I'm pretty sure he's shooting like sub 30% in the European League. And by the way, the 3-point line gets pushed back to going in the NBA, and you're playing better talent and defense and more athletic guys. So his 3-point percentage is definitely not going to go up right away in the NBA. And if it goes down from sub 30%, there's not much farther down you can go. That's almost as bad as it gets. So his 3-point shooting, and really just his jump shooting ability in general, is a gigantic red flag in my opinion, but that's not even the only one. That's probably the biggest problem with him. But then also, he is very much not an athlete. He lacks NBA level athleticism severely. He's not very fast either, which I guess you can tie into the athleticism. And right now it's not that big of a deal because in the ABA and in the Euro Cup League, even though those are very high-level leagues still, professional basketball-wise, it's nowhere near the NBA level talent, so you can get away with that lack of athleticism. And yes, I know athleticism is not by any means a correlation to a good or bad player, but it sure as hell helps to make a really good player into an absolutely beast of a player. And Topic just doesn't have that, and you can't really teach that or learn that. It's kind of just something you're born with, and I don't see him ever really getting that much faster or that much more athletic to the point to where he's ever going to be an NBA level athlete. And the reason that is such a problem is because in Europe, how does he score most of his baskets? If you watch any film on him, he scores about 90% of his baskets from layups and getting to the paint. And he's not like he's jumping over people. It's not like he's making these crazy layups. They're literally just kind of open layups because he's pretty okay at getting to the paint. And that is a gigantic problem because without that lack of speed, without that lack of jumping ability, when you're playing NBA level defenders and athletes every single night, no matter who you're going against, that those layups are going to be almost impossible to consistently get when you can't shoot the ball at all, because they're just going to play off of you because they're not going to be afraid of your shot, which is also going to make your passing even that much more worse, because now teams can now play off of you and play in the passing lanes opposed to having to worry about doubling you, because you have no threat of a jump shooting, so they play off of you, and then it's going to make it almost impossible to get layups because that's what they're fully expecting, and with their way superior athleticism and height and skill, they're going to be able to block those shots or at least contest them way more than you're getting contested in the EuroLeague. So I think that transition from elite level NBA defenders to, or even just super athletic guys in the NBA, is going to be a gigantic problem for Nikola Topic, because he can't shoot, he can't make a shot anywhere else, and his passing, which is his best attribute, is going to be worsened due to that lack of ability to make scoring options for himself. And then, even kind of to further this point, although it was only like 1.5 games in the EuroLeague, he struggled his ass off in the EuroLeague. Now look, it's only a game and a half, so I'm not really knocking him for it. Like, it's way too small of a sample size to get anything out of it. But it would have been nice to see that he could at least compete at a higher level competition, and well, it did not look like that at all. As before going into the EuroLeague, in the ABA with Mega Basket, he was averaging 18.4 points per game, 1 steal per game, 7 assists per game, 3 rebounds per game on, 52% shooting from the field, and an atrocious 25% shooting from the three-point line. And then you can't even say I'm just cherry-picking stats, because if you go to his other 2 ABA games with a different team in the same year, he was still averaging 14.5 points per game, 5 assists per game, 4 rebounds per game, 39% shooting from the field, and 30% shooting from 3. So no matter what team he was on in the ABA, he still was putting up solid to okay numbers. His efficiencies still weren't great, but at least his numbers, overall numbers, were pretty solid. But in the 2 games where he went to the EuroLeague, now once again, it was only 2 games, but in those 2 games, he averaged 3.5 points per game, about 3.5 assists per game, 1 rebound a game on, 0% shooting from the three-point line and 37% shooting from the three-point line. From the field goal percentage. So if that doesn't sound a little alarming to you, I don't know what to say. Like, obviously, yes, I'm sure if he played 20 games in the EuroLeague, his stats would look slightly better. I'm not saying this is what he's going to be when he goes to the NBA. I'm not saying he is a complete and utter terrible player. I think he's probably going to be okay, probably, maybe. But if that's not concerning to you, that the second he went to the second most talented league in the world, he struggled that immensely, that is a gigantic red flag to me. And it's not like he wasn't playing in those games, by the way. He was averaging 15.5 minutes per game in both of those games that he played. And he did play a good amount of time. Now, like I said, very small sample size, so I wouldn't take too much into it, but to me, it is still slightly concerning. And even his stats in the ABA, yes, he was scoring, yes, he was still passing well, but I don't think that with his lack of athleticism, his rebound numbers are going to be anywhere near what they were in the ABA. I think they're going to look more like they did in the EuroLeague, where he's averaging 1.5, 2 rebounds a game. So his rebounding is not going to be a huge skill set for him once I think he goes to the NBA. I don't think his passing is going to be at the 7 assists per game, 5 assists per game level that they were once at. And with his three-point percentage already being as abnormally low as they are at 25 and 30% in the ABA with both his teams, those are only going to drop when he gets to the NBA, and that is almost an unplayable player. If the guy cannot shoot, he can't defend at an elite level because he's not that great of an athlete, he can't pass as good as he wants to because everyone's playing passing lanes as opposed to playing help defense against him, I don't understand how this guy is ever going to be anything but maybe a rotational role player at best. I'm not saying he's going to be awful. I'm not going to say he's going to get abused, but I don't see him being anything more than a rotational guy. Like, maybe he can develop into a Ricky Rubio one day, but even if he just develops into Ricky Rubio, that you don't want a Ricky Rubio with a top 5 pick, okay? Like, you want an absolute beast. And I just don't see Nikola Topic being able to fit that bill in any way, shape, or form. And by the way, it's not like Nikola Topic is the first guy that I have done this with. Like, there's been guys like Denny Avengita and Dyson Daniels who, although I both think were better prospects coming in than Nikola Topic, I think were a little overrated. Now, by the way, Dyson Daniels is on my favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans. So it's not like I'm cherry picking here. Like, I don't think Dyson was a great pick. Yes, Dyson is an elite defender, but he literally is useless on the offensive end. Like, he has no bag. He has a floater, I guess you could argue, but his 3-point shooting is atrocious. He turns the ball over a good bit. He can't really dribble that well, and he's just so far behind offensively, I don't know if he will ever develop into a usable offensive player, but his defense is elite. So if he would have been a late first or even mid-first round guy instead of a lottery guy, I don't think that would have been a terrible pick. But with him being a top 8 pick in his draft, I think he was way overvalued, and I think they reached on him, and I don't think he should have been picked where he was picked. And I just overall think, although Dyson Daniels is a very solid role player, I don't think he was top 8 pick worthy. And kind of the same argument for Denny Avengita, as Denny was a top 10 pick in his draft class, and although, yes, he is a okay, solid role player in the NBA, I was never arguing he was going to be a bad player. I was arguing he was completely overvalued, and that is exactly what has happened. 4 years into his career, he has been averaging around 9 points per game his entire time on bad 3-point shooting efficiency, on okay field goal percentage, and just overall is a very okay player. Now, I know this year he is averaging around 14 points per game, but also I would argue is because he's on the Washington Wizards, where somebody had to score the ball, okay? They are horrible for a reason. Somebody had to score the ball, and Denny just so happened to increase his scoring because the team has been atrocious. Now, I will say his 3-point percentage has greatly increased, and if he can keep that up, he has a chance of proving me wrong. But I just don't see that. I honestly think he's just going to go back to regress to the means next year, or whenever Washington becomes competent, or when he goes to a competent team. I think he's just going to be an overall average role player once again. But he is probably the one guy out of these three that has a chance of proving me wrong. But even him, he has a ways to go. He has to do this again for an actual competent team before I believe it. But I will say he is on the way of doing it. But just overall, I don't think any one of these three guys are necessarily going to be bad or even are bad players for the NBA. I just think drafting them top 10, top 8, top 5 in Topic's case is going to be a complete reach, and are just overall not going to end up being great value picks. And I think that's the whole point in the draft. Like, yes, anyone can draft a role player with the first overall pick, but you don't want a role player with a lottery pick. You would like a star level player. And that these guys, just in my opinion, have a 0% chance of ever becoming star level players, and they passed up on guys who did have chances to do it, or even were going to have higher ceilings in general for them. And I just think overall they were kind of reaches of picks. Now, once again, like I said, not arguing they're bad players. I'm not arguing Topic's gonna be bad. I just think he is severely overvalued in this draft. And hopefully I convinced you that Nikola Topic is very overrated. And if you did listen to this all the way through, thank you so much for hearing me out. If you liked the video, hit the like button and the subscribe button. It mean the absolute word to me. And if you didn't like the video, you can just leave. You don't have to dislike the video. You don't have to leave a mean comment, okay? I know there's already going to be a lot of mean comments disagreeing with me. I don't really care. But, just don't hit the dislike button. You don't need to do that. There's no need to do that. But yeah, and I hope you have a blessed day, because I had a blessed day. So you need to have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.